happy hump day, my friends, and welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. It is freezing cold here in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and it will not stop snowing and ice rain. So we're having a lot of fun here in Fort Wayne, Indiana. TJ, my name is David Huffman. Right there is my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. On today's episode of the show, we're going to be talking about the 2024-25 awards and also giving out some of our own here at Prime Sports World. This will probably be like the final show as we put a little bit of a little bow on the 24-25 NFL season before we move into some off-season stuff. So if you like what we're doing here at Prime Sports World, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you, Aunt Judy, for checking us out here at Prime Sports World. We always appreciate your support. TJ, happy Wednesday, my friend. How are you?
It's Wednesday. It's not the weekend. It's snowing, you know.
Yeah. The snow is coming down in buckets here in Fort Wayne. We had a Wayne 15 Fury Alert Day at the station I work at. And so we end up making the entire studio red. So it's like you walked into the red planet. But every time you walk in there, it's crazy. It certainly is interesting.
Well, all right then.
So yeah, it's fun. But yeah, we're gonna talk about the awards. I wish I had put the S there in the awards. I'm gonna fix that right quick because stuff like that just drives me crazy. Anyways, I gotta fix this too. Hold on. All right. That's what happens when I try to throw graphics together right away in quick style. Let's talk about the awards. Let's first start with the most valuable player. Obviously, Josh Allen took that hardwood home with him in one of the closest races we've seen at the MVP, really in about 5 or 10 years or so. This is the first time that the MVP did not also win, third player to receive it, despite not being first-team All-Pro since that award was first given in 1957. I'm not going to exactly look up what those other three guys are. I will in a minute, though. But, Josh Allen played a crucial role in the Bills winning 13 games, also making it to the AFC title game. Not that that's even remotely involved in the voting for MVP. What are your thoughts on Josh Allen getting this MVP award?
Very reminiscent of Joel Embiid winning MVP in the NBA. It gave here, damn, you've been so close, here, take it. That's what it felt like. No, don't get me wrong, I understand what he meant to Buffalo, but at the same time the argument is he the most valuable player for the Buffalo Bills or is he the most valuable player of the NFL? How the hell you not all pro first team but you the MVP? Make it make sense.
I have no problem. I think Josh Allen did more with that Bills team. Many people thought that we talked about this conversation a little bit. I would have been fine with whoever won the award, but I'm happy Josh Allen won the award. I think he deserved it. I think what he did with that Buffalo Bills team was special. I know that Josh Allen and Lamar, when they played head to head, Lamar had the advantage, and that was a shellacking. And maybe that should have more of an impact on MVP voting, but they take your season as a whole. They don't judge you based on one game. If we're talking one game, Josh Allen's automatically disqualified based on that Houston Texans game. He was dreadful in that game. Josh Allen, I think he deserved the award. By the way, the other two guys to win the MVP without being first team All-Pro, Steve McNair in 2003. Obviously, he shared that award with Peyton Manning, who was first team All-Pro. And then John Elway beat out Jerry Rice to be the MVP that season, and John Elway was not All-Pro that season. So there you go.
And I understand, people. Lamar Jackson had Derrick Henry. That's one person. It's literally one person. Outside of Derrick Henry, the roster was relatively the same. And they're talking about Josh Allen throwing to rookies and other people. I'm like, since when is and no, this is no disrespect to the guys I'm about to name, but since when was Rashad Bateman and Zay Flowers world beaters? When was anybody kicking down the door to make sure Zay Flowers and Rashad Bateman was on their roster?
Yep, that's true.
Not happening.
But he also benefited by the fact, on paper, the offensive line for the Baltimore Ravens is a better unit than the one that Josh Allen had in Buffalo.
Okay, and
I'm just
statistically, Lamar Jackson had a better season than you, Josh
100%.
Allen. It
Yep.
it 100% felt like it feels like a pity MVP for Josh Allen. That's
And
what it feels like.
I also would say that Josh Allen had more quote unquote MVP moments. I mean that game where he beat the Detroit Lions. I mean that game where they beat Kansas City, where he kind of trucked his way into the end zone. Um, and I know Lamar Jackson had fantastic moments in that season. I'm not taking anything away from him. I would have been happy if either guy won the award. Actually, to be totally honest with you, I would have been okay if any of the three guys won the MVP this season. If Saquon Barkley won the MVP, I wouldn't have had a problem with it. Lamar
Mm.
Jackson won the MVP, no problem.
But
Josh Allen
if
was
there was
deserving of this award.
if there was ever a time for the NFL to quote unquote do the right thing would have been co MVPs.
Yep.
And this notion of like when it comes to stuff like this, like when this notion of somebody like we have to have a winner, like this, it's okay to have co MVPs or co something when it comes to individual awards. Like I wish they would do that more because like when 3 or 4 votes separates
Yeah.
first and second place, it's ridiculous. Just do the co MVPs, and I feel like everybody would have loved that. Like there's no way you could have had a problem if they said we have for the first time in 20 something years we have co
22
MVPs.
years. Moving on from there, let's talk about Coach of the Year. Goes to Kevin O'Connell of the Minnesota Vikings, a team that was projected to win 6.5 games, ended up winning 13 this
Double
season.
that.
Obviously, the way this season ended was not great. But what do you think of Kevin O'Connell winning the Coach of the
No
Year?
problem. Now this one I absolutely have no problem with. Everybody saw Dan Campbell got robbed. Dan he lost he lost players along the way. He lost players along the way. Kevin O'Connell,
I'm in agreement with you. I mean, one of the criteria that I go for when I'm talking about Coach of the Year, like I don't necessarily like giving Coach of the Year to a team that we expect it to be good.
expect
Like
to be good. Yeah.
like that's less about coaching as the fact that you have talent on your roster, which great, super, right? But the
Right.
fact that Kevin O'Connell did more with less and a roster that people expected them to be bottom feeders in the NFC North, to be the worst team in that division. No, they were the second best team in that division. He basically took Sam Darnold, who was an afterthought when they signed him in free agency and has been a journeyman the last 3 seasons, at least the last 3 seasons, turned him into a guy who's going to get paid $20 million, $25 million a year,
Yeah, depending
maybe in
on where.
Minnesota by somebody else. But like Kevin O'Connell deserved this award. The only other guy that I would have been remotely interested in giving it to would have been Sean McVay. I think the fact that Sean McVay took that Rams team to the playoffs, given the injuries that they had early on, he was able to keep that ship afloat. Sean McVay is a fantastic head coach.
Yeah, I could have also seen
I mean, Dan Quinn, I mean, another guy who's, did more with
yeah,
him and that
Dan,
Commanders team. I mean,
100%, 100% Dan Quinn should have gotten some love. D'Amico Ryan's losing Tank Dell, and I mean, but I guess he's in the same boat kind of as Dan
100%.
Campbell. Like, bro, we expected you to be there at the end. Yeah, Kevin O'Connell, like he lost the guy that was supposed to take over. Like Sam Darnold was not supposed to play the whole season. Like I think it was going to be similar to what like we
We saw
see.
New England.
Yeah, kind of like that. But like I was going to like the best example I could use is like when the Bears drafted Trubisky. Like he sat the first 5 weeks. And then he took over, and then so on and so forth. Like I'm expecting Sam Darnold to play no more than week 7, and then why is his name escaping me?
I mean, they kind of did the same thing with. Obviously because Kirk Cousins didn't play well, but Michael Penix was. I mean, I guess the plan was never
Yeah,
for him to play, but
well, yeah, well. I think that again, I think that's completely different. I wholeheartedly did not expect to see Michael Penix
me either.
touch the field at all
Yeah.
this season. And then, but like when you have a month stretch where you throw 1 touchdown and 9 or 10 interceptions, you kind of speed the process up. And it's like, yeah, we gotta we got to get this. We got to get this guy. We got to get this guy in here. But I have no problem with Kevin O'Connell winning Coach of the Year.
100% agree with that. Let's swing into Offensive Player of the Year. Saquon Barkley takes that award. He did rush for 2,000 yards. He did basically lead this Philadelphia Eagles team to unprecedented territory. Became the 9th player to reach the 2,000-yard plateau. This wasn't an easy victory in my opinion, for Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, I just your comment earlier about the MVP and he should have won it or had more votes in it. I forgot who said it. It was on Twitter. It was a former player or current player. Can't remember, but I will find it. And it was probably too gone now. Like the feed is constantly ever changing on Twitter. And it's probably buried in the algorithm, so it's just gonna be too hard to dig up. But yeah, it's gone. I should have retweeted it when I saw it. But they basically said that just change the award, like, because basically the Offensive Player of the Year is essentially the runner-up to the MVP award. It can be looked at like that. Like, so basically, and you know how I feel about, like, hey, if you're a skill player, running back, receiver, whatever, you have no shot at winning MVP. It's because of how they place value in the quarterback. If you're a running back or a receiver and you have a damn near record,
I mean, Saquon Barkley rushed for 2,000 yards.
2,000 yards.
He didn't get a single first place vote. He only got 1 second place vote. He got 25 third place votes. He finished easily in third, but
like, that's insane.
But he steamrolled through this award. I mean, he had 35 first place votes, 8 second place votes, 3 third place votes. He won this award by over 200 points.
And so,
just rounding out the top 5 when it comes to this voting here, Lamar Jackson at 2nd, Jamar Chase, who had the Triple Crown, at 3rd, and then Derrick Henry and Joe Burrow round the top 5 when we're talking about Offensive Player of the Year. And as I said, I have no issue with Saquon Barkley winning this award, and I think it is interesting.
I have no issue with it at all. Like, I wholeheartedly would just rather them change the MVP award to like the Quarterback of the Year award or some shit like that. I don't know. Just it has to change, like, because again, like, say he breaks ED's regular season rushing record. Can you imagine rushing for like damn near 2,200 yards and not getting the first place vote in the MVP award?
I think it would have been. I would be interested to see like what the conversation would be, like if he had broken that award, like broken that record, like if he had legit gone for it. I think he needed like over 100 yards in the final game that he decided not to play,
which he could have easily gotten.
Yeah, sure, he could have. He also could have got injured, as we see what happens sometimes. But it all paid off. He won the Super Bowl. The Eagles not allowing him to get that award ends up paying off. The conversation would be very different now if the Eagles had either not made the Super Bowl or lost in the Super Bowl. But Saquon Barkley deserved this award. It should have been unanimous. Let's be real. From there, DPOY, Patrick Surtain the second, and he's the first cornerback to win this award in a hot minute. I can't remember exactly how long it's been, but I looked it up in just a second. He wins this in kind of a landslide. He gets 26 first place votes, 11 second place votes, and third place votes. Do you know who was second in this particular award voting?
Probably not Trey Hendrickson.
Trey Hendrickson was second, actually.
Oh, wow.
He took home 11 first place votes, 10 second place votes, and 9 third place votes. But he was 125 points away from Patrick Surtain the second. And we talked about this a lot during the season. Like, the Denver Broncos were Bo Nix came on really strong towards the end of the season, but for majority of the run that Denver went on this season, this defense carried this football team. And PS2 was absolutely deserving of this award.
So like my takeaway from that is it was actually 2. Again, Trey Hendrickson has to be like not kicking himself, because Trey Hendrickson can look at this thing like, damn it, I did my part.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Like, personally, I did my part. Like me, me, Trey Hendrickson, I did my part. But like
he's only the second defensive back since 2010 to win this award. Stephon Gilmore took home this award in 2019. But other than that, it's been
and then edge rushers and linebackers. Yeah.
Yep. In
and
tackles, defensive tackles.
and Aaron Donald.
Yeah, Aaron Donald, yeah, pretty
And
much.
Aaron Donald. It's so like if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you're looking at it like this, like damn, bro, if we win 11 games or 12 games, we sweep MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, and Defensive Player of the Year. But you didn't, and that so like if I'm Trey Hendrickson, I'm like damn, bro, like we are. I don't know which more I got to do. And on the second tip is this: if I'm Jalen Johnson, it's like, oh, we got to win more games because if he can win, if 10-7 got Pat Surtain DPOY, and Jalen Johnson, like, gee, I know I graded better. In some cases, like Jalen Johnson finished like top 3 in PFF grades.
Also, Pastor Tan also showed up in big matchups. So when he went up against Jamar Chase this season, 3 catches for 27 yards, he was guarded by Pastor Tan on 43 routes in that game. If you remember correctly, Jamar Chase did most of his damage against Riley Moss, I think, in that game. And then he went up against DK Metcalf. 3 catches for 29 yards on 24 routes he defended. Was the best anyone did against either of those star receivers. He surrendered the fewest receiving yards, 306, at anyone in his position this season, with a minimum of 375 coverage snaps. Second lowest passer rating. PS2 deserved it. Like he was outstanding this season.
And then on the Jalen Johnson tip, you look at his big matchup. Obviously, you're seeing Justin Jefferson twice a year. The first game against the Vikings, he held Justin Jefferson to 2 catches for 27 yards. Jordan Addison was the one that killed us. But obviously, if you're the best, it's like, hey, I'll live with that. Jealous is not going to be the one to carve me up. So yeah, every other corner not named Jalen Johnson, it was going to be a long day at the office. But yeah, Pat. I think out of all of them, I think probably this is the one that caught me off guard because truth be told, and it's no disrespect to Pastor Ten, like I didn't even like really think he was in. I don't say not in the running, but I just didn't and I don't know if it's like me not doing my research properly or it's just not like the media talking about it enough because like I did not know like he was in the conversation.
Moving on from there, let's talk about Offensive Rookie of the Year and nearly unanimous. Jaden Daniels takes this home award with 49 first-place votes. Brock Bowers took home the lone other first-place vote, probably by some Las Vegas Raider media reporter, which is just ridiculous. Jaden Daniels won second-place vote. He had 495, 5 points away from being absolutely unanimous in this particular award. Brock Bowers at number 2, Bo Nix at 3, Brian Thomas at 4, and then Malik Neighbors rounding out the top 5 as Jaden Daniels basically brought the Commanders back to relevancy as they were basically dead in the water for the last few seasons. And we've seen what we did in the playoffs, taking them to the NFC title game before they got shellacked by the Philadelphia Eagles. This was as easy as a vote as it could have been during this award season for sure.
Yeah, again, this is another one. Like if you're a rookie QB or a rookie receiver or rookie running back, unless you do some spectacular shit, you're not going to win this over a quarterback. It's another one of those. Now, don't get me wrong, Jaden Daniels did what he was supposed to do. He went ape shit. But you look at some of the other members in his class. Brock Bowers broke records.
Yeah,
long standing.
I mean, he broke Puka Nakua's record. He broke the rookie tight end record. He
Mike Dick had that record since the 50s, bro. Like that's how
he was. I think 8 receptions away from breaking the tight end. Like not even rookies, like receptions in a season for a tight end. He was 8 receptions away, or 6 receptions, something like that. Because Zach Ertz has that award at like 114 catches for a season. Brock Bowers had like 108.
Like that's insane. So and then you look at Malik Neighbors up in New York, who you don't know who's going to be quarterbacking from play to play, forget game to game, play to play. And I know Malik Neighbors kind of rubbed people the wrong way when he post game interview, and he's like, don't wait till we down 20 to get me the ball. Like that, like no, keep doing what you was doing the whole. You can't it can't be the fourth quarter and we getting our ass kicked and you be like, all right, let's throw the ball to Malik now. Like I know he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, but he was right.
I mean, he had 1,200 yards this season. I mean, he was on a bad Giants team. Somehow, like quietly had 1,200 yards receiving. And you can say the same thing about Brian Thomas. I mean, Brian Thomas set the Jacksonville Jaguar rookie receiving record. I don't know what that record was. I'm sure it wasn't hard to break, but I'm just saying. But yeah, I mean, he had a monster season this year too. I mean, 1,200 yards from him, 10 touchdowns. I mean, not to mention their kind of revolving door at quarterback there with Mac Jones and Trevor Lawrence kind of taking turns being hurt. So yeah, but Jay Daniels absolutely slam dunk home run, deserving of the award.
Oh, absolutely. I ain't got no problem with it.
From there, we got Defensive Player of the Year, or Defensive Rookie of the Year, with Jared Verse of the Los Angeles Rams. He's the first round pick of the Rams since 2016. So wait for them to cash in that award as he had 4.5 sacks, 66 tackles, 2 forced fumbles, and 2 fumble recoveries, and was the Rams' only Pro Bowl selection this season.
So, yeah, I'm like, again, I listen to First Take about every night at work. It just gets me through my shift, you know. It's 2 hours gone. And there was like they pose the questions all the time, like who can because you know, like who can beat Detroit, who can beat Philly, and Darren Orlovsky, he stayed catching strays. But especially because
he's so good on TV. Like, let me tell you,
like he stay catching strays. Like he's probably the biggest Matt Stafford fan in the media, outside of probably those in LA. But he's probably like the biggest Matt Stafford fan, and he with his whole chest, his whole fiber in his being, said that if the Rams met up with Detroit or Philly in the playoffs, that they had a shot at winning, mostly because of Matt Stafford, but like at the same time, and we saw it, right? Like we saw it in the playoff game. Like the
Rams had a real shot. I mean, if
they had a real shot at beating.
Jalen Carter doesn't blow up that play on Matthew Stafford on that 4th down, I mean, they had a real opportunity to potentially tie the game. So
it's like but the underrated part of that Rams team was that defense, mostly because they're so young. Yep. Right,
I mean, they also another guy who was finished in 3rd in this voting, Brandon Fisk. He had 96 votes. I mean, for this, I mean, Quayon Mitchell was number 2, and then Jared Verse obviously took the home, and then Cooper DeJean at 4, and then Chop Robinson of the Miami Dolphins rounding out the top 5. But I mean, we had this conversation when we talked about this award when we did our preview episode, right? And like, what do you consider more valuable, a defensive tackle in Jared Verse or a shutdown corner in Quayon Mitchell? I'm not pronouncing that right, but and the voters kind of were like, yeah, I guess we like the edge rusher, you know, the defensive tackle. Like, we think that has more of an impact
because it's like, well, they've.
And I also wonder if like Mitchell's like his case was hurt by the fact that the Eagles had such a dominant defensive line that he didn't have to necessarily be great in coverage because they were going to get pressure under the quarterback, and he was like the decision was going to have to be made quickly if where they're going to throw it. And if Mitchell's over there, and you're like, yeah, I'm not throwing that way. I'll go the other way. Like especially if you got no time to think about it. Like, you're like, who's he not guarding? I'll just play one over there. Like,
I mean, well, if you're a shutdown corner, that's what hurts your argument anyway. Because even if the front doesn't get pressure, right? Say a quarterback has all day to throw. Even if you're on the field and it's like, you know what? Okay, like your first identity, like your first read is, all right, where's DB1? Whoever the opposing team's DB, it's like, well, I'm not throwing that way. So
I mean, just to put it in perspective, right? Like, Darrelle Revis never won a Defensive Player of the Year, and Darrelle Revis was the best defensive player in the NFL for at least 5-6 years. But when you are a shutdown corner,
It was a
they just
3 year stretch. It was a 3 year stretch for sure, where Revis Island was Revis Island.
and like if you are a legit shutdown corner, you're just nobody is throwing to you. So like when you look at your statistics, like you don't have the interceptions, you just don't have those like gaudy stats that they the voters and like people like they look for when they're like, oh, like the criteria, like, oh, they have to have like so many picks. They have to. This is why defensive backs don't win this award. Like
Exactly.
if you're a top flight defensive back, they're just not going to throw at you. Like we'll just throw it anywhere else.
And so
That's why
and
Nadi Asamoah was one of the best best defensive players in the NFL. He never sniffed the DPOY.
and so like basically the NFL is boiled down to who's the best passer, who can stop and who can get off the field, and who has a better shot at getting you off the field, the DB or the line, because they're literally right there. Like so Jared Verse winning this award, and it's again like one of his competitors for this award was his own teammate. Another rookie who was, like you said, who was probably hurt by the fact that he had a stacked defense to the point where they didn't even need to blitz.
Yeah, in the Super Bowl. The first time it was the first time since like that whatever that stat has been like even remotely tracked. So
they didn't even have to not just the Super Bowl, but like most of the season they didn't even have to blitz. Yeah. And then so on and so forth. So I have no issue with Jared Verse winning this award either. What do you have? 4.5 sacks?
Yep. To the final award we're going to break down before we get into kind of our own kind of fun Prime Sports World Awards. Let's talk about Comeback Player of the Year, and that goes to Joe Burrow.
Still say Sam Darnold should have won it, but
rounding out the top 5 is J.K. Dobbins, who would probably have been my vote to win this award. But Sam Darnold and Damar Hamlin, and then Christian Gonzalez, who came back off that injury for the New England Patriots. Joe Burrow, he had the wrist injury. He missed the majority of last season, and he put up crazy numbers this year. Probably deserved Comeback Player of the Year. In my opinion, I think Sam Darnold and Damar Hamlin probably were quote unquote disqualified from quote unquote winning this award because they did like, especially when it comes, neither of those guys were coming back from an injury. And I think the NFL did not like the fact that Joe Flacco won that award last season when he was sitting on his couch, came back in I know, but they changed the criteria of the award because of it. And Sam Darnold and Damar Hamlin just flat out don't meet the criteria of this award anymore.
Well, Damar Hamlin, like the year that they nominated Damar Hamlin was a bad year because
he barely played. He was unsuspected.
Right. He barely played. Like
he
Damar Hamlin,
real big role in that Buffalo defense this season.
Absolutely. Sure. He had I also would have. This is like one of those situations where if you're Buffalo and Damar Hamlin, from personal experience, this is one of those situations where maybe you should have sat out.
Yeah.
Last year, just to more so precautionary. But again, having gone through my own heart issue, I know that itch of just wanting to get back out there, just wanting to get back to some sense of normalcy.
I will also say, so Joe Burrow ruptured his scapulonati ligament in his throwing wrist. He could not find another quarterback or baseball pitcher who had that injury that he could talk about during his recovery process. And the fact that he came back and had his best season of his career is nuts.
But at the same time, how many people can Damar Hamlin look to and be like, hey, you died and came back and still
yeah. I mean, your point is super valid. I have no issues with Joe Burrow winning this award for sure.
And again, my vote would have went to Sam Darnold because I understand Sam Darnold technically, quote unquote, in quotations, wasn't injured. But if you if you ride the pine, if you a bench rider, you're not playing. And to go from basically,
the NFL, if you want to sort out this issue completely, just have a most improved player of the year. Have it. like there are players that maybe they're not quality of the MVP, and they're not going to be offensive player of the year or defensive, like all these awards, but like there are players that improve from season to season, and we should be celebrating. I mean, Zach Bond. I mean, if you want to talk about him being the most improved player of the year,
100% has an argument. Like,
yeah, 100%.
But truth be told, like, let's be honest. Like, since we've known each other, which has been well over 10 years now, how long have we been talking about this? How long have we been asking? How long have we been saying the NFL needs their version of most improved?
10 years. So it's been
like,
a while.
It's been a while. So like, just
maybe the NFL doesn't have enough money, so they don't want to make another trophy. So that's why they won't do it. Quick fact, 100%. Ben Johnson also took home assistant coach of the year. We're not going to talk about that as much here. Let's swing into our awards. Let's start with most surprising player. TJ, you got a most surprising player in 2024-25?
Most surprising player would it'll probably have to go to. I'm stuck between Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. Brian Thomas Jr. Because when you look at their situations, like you're not expecting them to put up anything, let alone the numbers that they put up. I get it's Malik Neighbors because, like at least Brian Thomas can say, "Hey, Trevor Lawrence is throwing me the ball."
I'm going Sam Darnold. Nobody in their right mind would have thought if Minnesota is starting Sam Darnold for all 17 games this season, they're going to win 13 of them. There's not a person in the world that thought that was going to be a realistic outcome. Sam Darnold, I hope he gets paid. I hope they don't just hold those 2 games against him and don't want to pay him now. So my most surprising player, I'm going to go Sam Darnold. From there, most surprising team, I'm going to stay in the NFC, and maybe I'm stealing yours, but I'm going Washington Commanders. Nobody gave this team a bad chance in hell of making even the playoffs this year, and they somehow make it to the NFC title game with Dan Quinn as their head coach, with Jaden Daniels, with Terry Scary McLaurin, and some pieces on defense that they kind of just pulled out of free agency. They were kind of castaways on other teams. Commanders is my most surprising team. TJ, go ahead.
That's a tough art. That's a tough one to.
I mean, you can take the same team, or we don't have to.
It is what it is. Like you're right, because they were projected to. I think they were projected to finish at least third in that division. Like everybody thought, it ends with Philly, and then you got Dallas, and then the Giants are the Giants that no one's expecting the Giants to do much of anything, and then. My most surprising team would probably be the Vikings. Again, no one's expecting Sam Darnold to do what he did. What's his name? Why's the kid from Michigan? JJ McCarthy gets injured. Like he's expecting to take over at some point, and it doesn't happen. And you come into the season, you're gonna projected to win at most 7 games. You're projected to go 7-10, and you double up. You win 14 games. Like, no one saw that coming.
From there, let's talk about coach. Most surprising coach for you, TJ.
Now that would probably be Dan Quinn. That's 100% Dan Quinn. You take over a mess in Washington, complete overhaul, new ownership, new whatever, and not just that, like you make Jerry Jones look like a goddamn fool in the process.
He could be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys right now. I'm going Mike Tomlin. I don't know if you remember when we did the prediction show for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I said that this was going to be the season where they have their first losing season. I was proved dead wrong by Mike Tomlin, his ability to coach his team. Obviously, it fizzled out towards the playoffs and towards the end of the season. But we can't take away what Mike Tomlin did with this Steelers team, who still doesn't have the top flight talent at the wide receiver position. It's really the defense outside of J.J. Watt and what's his name, Hayward. and Mika Fitzpatrick. I still think this defense is really missing some like a real shutdown corner. Mike Tomlin's got to be my vote for most surprising coach. I did not think the Steelers were going to be as good. I for sure didn't think they'd be a playoff team, and I didn't think they'd be better than the Cincinnati Bengals this season or the Miami Dolphins. So give my flowers out to Mike Tomlin.
Plus their two-man situation at quarterback. No, that's a good argument. I like that. I don't have a problem with that.
To the other side, from most surprising to the most disappointing, as we swing to the other side of this conversation, let's talk about most disappointing team. I don't know why I reversed that order there on that, but whatever.
I have out the gate. I have two. Biggest disappointment: Cincinnati. Too much talent to do what you like to be where y'all are at, and Joe Burrow once again was on First Take during the Super Bowl week, and he acknowledged it. He's like, "Yo, we can't keep doing this. We can't keep starting off 1-4, 1-5, 2-6, 2-7, and then having to scramble at the end of the season just to get back in the picture. Like by that point, you cooked. So like they getting out to like the first 2 months of the season under Zach Taylor for the Cincinnati Bengals have been historically slow. You can't keep doing that. This league is forget the league. Your division is too damn good for you to constantly be playing catch up. And the second team is
I mentioned yesterday on our coaching carousel show. Mm-hmm. I think if Cincinnati gets off to another slow start, I think they're gonna pull the trigger on Zach Taylor. I think he will be. I think there's potential that he could be the first head coach fired next season.
Yeah, he's gone. And then my second team, obviously, here the Bears. You can't spend the whole offseason hyping people up, like talking about this is the best situation a rookie quarterback has ever inherited, and then come out the way that you did. You got scathing reports about how this one guy who's not even affiliated with the organization had ownership in the chokehold with hiring his clients. You have another report coming out that Caleb Williams had to watch film on his own because Shane Waldron wouldn't watch film with him. That's horrible. And it just makes you look like what was the hiring process like when y'all hired these people?
Yep.
Like, what was the vetting process?
I'm going to go into the AFC, and I'm taking the two teams that I talked about the majority of the season, talking about being the most disappointing teams in the NFL. I'm starting first with the New York Jets. I mean, Robert Saleh gets fired midseason. I mean, you trade for Devontae Adams. You think that's going to make a difference on your team? It doesn't. You win less games this season than you did with Zach Wilson the season before, with a healthy Aaron Rodgers, who didn't play terrible this season. The Jets are my vote. And then I'm going to swing over into the AFC South, and I'm going to the Jacksonville Jaguars as well. There was a lot of hype around this Jaguars team based on, they drafted Brian Thomas. You still have some decent pieces on this offense. You have Sunshine, as TJ likes to say. And this team just overall disappointed in all of the ways that matter in the NFL, and it cost Doug Peterson his job on Black Monday. From the coach, let's talk about players. From the team, let's talk about players. And for me, this hurts me to say because I was very excited for when this player ended up where he ended up. It's Kirk Cousins to the Atlanta Falcons. I know it started out great. He orchestrated that game-winning drive against the Philadelphia Eagles on Monday Night Football or Sunday night. But then his down the stretch was just brutal. And it was clear that he's just not the same player after that post-Achilles tear. And, I mean, now the Atlanta Falcons are probably going to have to buy him out or cut him this offseason to try to move on from his money and take on a huge dead cap hit. Kirk Cousins is my most disappointing player.
Most disappointing player. Where to begin? Aaron Rodgers. Now, to be fair, Aaron Rodgers' disappointment is a career for some players. Like let's be real, right? But no, real talk. Kirk Cousins. It's literally just how he finished. Because again, one touchdown, 9, 10 interceptions in a month, bro. Like that's 5 games in most cases. Four like that's 4 games on the Sunday and an occasional Thursday night game. So that's 5 games. You threw one touchdown,
It was something like 10 picks.
10 picks.
Yeah.
It's
So
not that's yeah, like if anyone says if there's an argument for anyone not named Kirk Cousins, I would love to hear it, but yeah, Kirk Cousins is whew.
and
Yeah,
yeah,
that
The Falcons are going to have to make an interesting decision this offseason for sure.
oh,
To the most disappointing coach, TJ.
not even close.
I'm going Matt Eberflus too. In my honest opinion, I don't think it's close. Like we talked about this in the offseason, right? Like the Bears are putting Caleb Williams in the best position a quarterback in his rookie season has ever been in, and then it's just a train wreck. Like basically ever since that Hail Mary by the Commanders, they didn't win a game after that until they beat Green Bay in the final week of the season. I mean, maybe they won another game somewhere in between there, but it was an absolute train wreck between that play. And that play is just kind of a microcosm of their entire season, right? Like, yeah, you think you're going to win a game, and then something happens where you just lose.
Like again, like there was a stretch. Well, we saw the Shane Waldron's last game was the New England game. You lose 19-3, and the offense stalls out before the game gets out of hand, and you're just sitting next to Caleb Williams and you're smiling on the bench, and like that clip goes viral, and it's just like, bro, what in the entire F are you laughing and smiling about? What is there to be happy about?
Was there like a Derek Anderson all over
right
again?
now? So Shane Waldron gets fired there. Then you have the stretch of Minnesota, Green Bay, and I forgot the third game where you lose those 3 games by a grand total of 7 points. Just those 3 games, like because you lose to Minnesota by 3. Caleb Williams does what he does to get the game to overtime, and it's almost like we have momentum, and then it's almost like the offense goes right back to calling what it was calling at the start of the game, and then you play Green Bay, and Caleb Williams does what he does again to get the team in the field goal range. And Matt Eberflus, instead of calling plays, instead of saying get closer, you kill as much clock as possible, and you leave Carlos Santos to a 47-yard field goal, which he's again 47 yards. You have to make that, but he makes that kick if it doesn't get but the kick gets blocked. So it's like it's not like Carlos Santos just shanked the damn kick. It got blocked, and at the same time, it is what it is. And then I forgot the third. I can look it up right here. So
I mean, talking about
then
Lions game where you had the most embarrassing moment on national television ever.
So you lose to the Packers by 1, the Vikings by 3, and then you lose to the Lions again by 3. You lose those 3 games by a grand total of 7 points. And and then you have the Hail Mary game where it's like, bro, like second down, you're in total prevent defense. You basically gave up 15 free yards, which made the Hail Mary that much more easier. And it's almost like, coaching malpractice all the way around if you're Matt Eberflus.
So from there, I agree with every point you make. I can't even. You make a great argument. So from there, we're going to talk about giving out our versions of the Prime Sports World Coach of the Year and then MVP. So this is kind of a little bit different. So the guy, maybe didn't, deserve. Maybe didn't. They just did better than most people expected them to. So they're not going to win the actual MVP, but they deserve a little bit of our flowers. Let's talk about Coach of the Year. Start there. TJ, here you got is your Prime Sports World Coach of the Year.
So the guy that probably just didn't get enough love to me, and you said it when we did the first segment. It's Sean McVay. I don't think Sean McVay had a shot in hell at winning Coach of the Year, but for you to basically spend the first 8-9 weeks of the season with your team beat the hell, and still and still kept that team afloat in a super competitive division, I might add. Like the NFC West is not a slouch. Yeah, like Puka Nakua was out for a minute. Cooper Cup was out for a minute. The defense was banged up, and the Rams were still winning games. Sean McVay.
As much as it pains me to say this, I'm going to go Matt. You actually took mine. I was going to give it to Sean McVay because I think he's absolutely deserving of his flowers. So, he's been an excellent head coach so far his tenure. Hopefully he doesn't retire anytime soon because he's that good. I'm swinging to Green Bay. I'm going to go Matt LaFleur. When he did the stuff he did with Malik Willis, whenever Malik Willis had to start games for the Green Bay Packers, and his ability to coach to his team's strength is second to absolutely none. He is absolutely one of the top 5-ish coaches in the NFL right now. And Matt LaFleur, the fact that he's always able to he takes these really young wide receivers and these young weapons, and he just kind of gets the best out of them all the time. Matt LaFleur, I guess, is my Prime Sports World Coach of the Year.
I don't hate that.
And then from there, let's talk about our Prime Sports World MVP. And I'm going to go first this time, and I'm giving it to Jaden Daniels. And I know he was a rookie, but for him to come into Washington and change the culture of that franchise in a very, very short amount of time, to changing the attitude around that franchise. I talked about this a lot in other episodes of Prime Sports World. I work with the guy who's a big-time Commanders fan, and, man, you should see the pep in his step while he walks around the office. It is Commanders stuff every day now. It is a night and day from what we were dealing with last season. Jay Daniels, just his ability to just elevate the players around him. Because when you look at the Commanders' offense, especially on offense, or roster, especially on offense, they didn't change all that much outside of replacing Sam Howell and putting him in the position that Sam Howell was in. And a lot of that, has to do with, Dan Quinn being an excellent coach and Clint Kingsbury being a fantastic coach too. But Jay Daniels, Prime Sports World MVP.
Then you add what's his name? You add Austin Eckler versus.
Even Austin Eckler, was banged up,
and he's banged up and
barely played. I think he played probably 3 games in the regular season.
But I also think shout out to Cliff Kingsbury, who, in my opinion, I think Cliff Kingsbury. I think he's more apropos as what he is now. I think he's 100%. Of course,
he's going to be a head coach next season, probably.
I don't know.
The next guy, I think he's going to get a job, wherever it happens to be. I think
because people say that about Spagnuolo in Kansas City. Like the guy's he's a Hall of Fame coordinator. He's coordinated 3 he's coordinated 3 Super Bowl winning defenses, and it's almost like no one's calling the Kansas City Chiefs asking for permission to interview Steve Spagnuolo for their head coaching spots.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that he was a head coach, I think twice, and it didn't go well at all, which is why he's back. Yeah, always the Rams, like a terrible Rams team, or the Giants or something.
So Cliff Kingsbury could probably go through the same thing where it's just I tried that, it didn't work out well for me, how it should have.
But you could say Cliff Kingsbury's tenure as a head coach in the NFL went night and day better than the tenure of Steve Spagnuolo in Los Angeles or in St. Louis.
Well, yeah, because it's one different game.
He was 11-41 as a head coach, either as the interim. Either as the interim head coach in New York or as the head coach of the St. Louis Rams. So.
Obviously the interim tag it's real funky because it's it's not your fault, but it's your fault. Kind of, he was
1-3 as the interim head coach in the Giants. He went 1-5 in St. Louis his first season, 7-9 his second season, and then he followed that up with a 2-14 season in 2011, and he was shown his walking papers once that season was over.
My Prime Sports World MVP would it's hard not to give it to Sam Darnold. Again, bro, you're basically a cast off. No one's expecting much of anything from you, but at the same time, it also goes to show you the importance of coaching. Like Sam Darnold, well, this was his first time as a full-time starter since his days in the Jets, and that was what, 7 years ago, some
I mean,
shit like
no, I
that.
think it was only like 5, but I mean, it was a hot minute.
It's
So
so from you to spend your time in New York, again, not good rosters. You get you leave New York, you go wherever the hell you went, and
Carolina,
then right, you go to Carolina, you win one game there, then you lose the rest of them. Then Baker Mayfield comes in and on a Thursday night, no, he goes to no, Baker Mayfield goes to
no,
L.A.
so
Then he goes to Carolina, but you spend
no,
1 year
Bakefield and Sam Darnold were in LA together, or in Carolina together.
Carolina together,
It was in Carolina. They released Baker Mayfield that he ended up in LA.
LA, right? And then you go from there. Then you go to San Fran, and that's kind of where the rumbling started with Sam Darnold. Like, is you drafted Trey Lance, and it's not like word gets out of camp that Trey Lance ain't picking up what Shanahan's putting down fast enough. So it's really a conversation between Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold, and people are like, "Really, like the same Sam Darnold that?" And everybody and the Niners are like, "Yes, Sam Darnold," but we know the direction that they chose. They went Brock Purdy. Sam Darnold's the backup. Trey Lance, your top overall pick, is dropped to QB3. Sam Darnold
Trade Dallas before
traded
the
to
season even
Dallas,
started.
and
So
then so like Sam Darnold to go from backup to starting, basically a bridge quarterback in Minnesota, to change of plans. You're you starting for like the rest of the way now because McCarthy got hurt in training camp. Not going to have McCarthy at all.
I
To
mean,
go from
just
that
put
to
his
winning
numbers.
14 games.
Just putting his numbers in perspective. So he threw for 4,300 yards this season, right? His
Come on
next
now.
closest season is his second season in New York, where he threw for 3,000. So
Come on now.
that's an increase of 1,300 yards. He threw for 35 touchdowns. The next closest season was also in 2019, where he threw for 35 touchdowns. He only threw 12 picks this season. That is less than he threw in 12 games while he played for Carolina in 2021. So, yeah, I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
Like Sam Darnold, and I would it wouldn't surprise me one bit if Minnesota just decided to stick with him and be like, you know what, JJ, we gonna work on some more stuff with you while we.
We're going to talk about Minnesota when we get to their off-season preview. I have
So
an
like
opinion on
that's
that for sure.
but like just to like kind of preview that stuff real quick. Like the QB. So like again, the draft is in April. We got about maybe was it
Two
February?
months.
Yeah, we got just under maybe 90 days for the NFL draft. If you're a team like the Saints, like the Raiders, uh, who are not in a position to get one of the top QBs in this draft, you have a decision to make. Do you pay Aaron Rodgers? Do you go after Sam Darnold? Who do you feel more comfortable?
You imagine that Derek Carr is going to get released at some point too, and so he'll be available. Kirk Cousins. I mean, are you going to bank on Kirk Cousins getting better in year 2 removed from that Achilles tear? I mean,
Seattle.
there. I mean,
Seattle.
you also have to factor in the fact that Russell Wilson. The reports are out of Pittsburgh that he will not be
Pittsburgh.
returning to the team.
What do you do
So,
in Pittsburgh? What do you do in Seattle? Like,
yep,
it's gonna be some opportunities to get paid if you're Sam Darnold.
I
And
agree
I
with you.
and I wholeheartedly would not blame him one bit if he decided to go to the highest bidder.
If I'm him, that's exactly what I'm doing. You got to make your money while you can. But yeah, that's been our 2024 NFL Awards Analysis Show. Thank you very much for joining us. We're going to be swinging into some off-season stuff next week. So if you like what we're throwing down here at Prime Sports World, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. We're live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Twitch. We're also live on the Huddle Sports Network. So yeah, I'm David Huffman right there, my co-host, Mr. T.J. Hopkins. And TJ.
And we got to schedule some more crossover stuff because it's some stuff going on in Dallas that I understand like fans can be mad at stuff like that's their right, but when y'all threaten a person and their families for a decision, come on now. I know Luka Doncic meant a lot to the Mavericks, but come on now, dude ain't just wake up one morning and said, "I'm gonna trade Luka Doncic today." Like, no, that's not how that went.
But thank you very much for joining us. We are Prime Sports World, and TJ, what do we do here at Prime Sports World?
We bring the heat, and I need a flamethrower to melt the snow. I see those videos on the internet, and they work. Sometimes.
Yeet as well, as we're still celebrating Jey Uso here at Prime Sports World. We'll get more into wrestling stuff as we get closer to WrestleMania. You all have a good night. Stay safe out there. Here's a quick message from our sponsor here at the Huddle Sports Network. TJ, have a good night, man. Have a good night at work.
I'll try.
Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before. Imagine tuning into real-time discussions, expert analyses, and fan interactions all at your fingertips. Each platform offers a unique experience, whether you're on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitch. We're not just sharing stories, we're creating a community of passionate sports enthusiasts. Join us as we dive deep into the evolution of podcasting, where every episode is a chance to engage, debate, and celebrate the world of sports. This is where your voice matters and the game never stops. Welcome to the Huddle Sports Network, where we're breaking boundaries and redefining podcasting. Broadcasting live on 6 different platforms, we're bringing you the latest in sports like never before, where sports passion meets podcasting brilliance. I'm Mike, the Bear fan, and alongside Bill, the Packer fan, and our buddy Ken Catalone, we're bringing you an incredible lineup of 38 diverse podcasters. Each one brings their unique flavor to the table, covering everything from game analysis to behind-the-scenes stories. Imagine diving deep into the minds of experts who live and breathe football, sharing insights that you won't find anywhere else.